welcome to our third annual
Yes,
chat
I
with
know.
Bonnie and
I
Christine.
look forward to coming in and speaking with you and all of your beautiful people so much.
Yeah, we do have a lot of beautiful people here, and they're people who love beauty. They appreciate color and design and art, so they've come to the right place
Yeah.
because both of us, like, that's how we built our our
Yeah.
entire careers. Um,
Yeah.
so this is about, we have about 50 minutes to chat, and it's a Q&A. So I'd love you to, if you're here with a question, you can put it in the Q&A box in Zoom, and we will go over that. I'll kind of moderate those, and I'll ask them to Bonnie, and I have a few things to start out with. So while we're just starting out here, feel free to put your questions over there. Um, I'm not going to look at chat for questions, just put them in the Q&A instead. Okay. So for those of you who don't know, which probably you all know already who Bonnie is, because Bonnie is kind of the queen of surface pattern design on the internet these days. I think a lot of people have heard of Immersion by now, and they have seen your work on fabrics, and they've seen you published in UPPERCASE magazine quite a few times. So Bonnie's work is it's very organic. It's naturally inspired. It has a beautiful sweetness to it, if I may say. It's just very lovely. And I think that's part of its success, is because it's just very welcoming and very appealing, both for consumers who purchase your surface patterns and fabric, but also I think for people who want to be in surface pattern design as a career, because they can see like it's a very um, welcoming and pretty place to be. So
Yeah.
perhaps you could tell us just a little bit about your surface pattern career prior to Immersion.
Yeah. Thank you, Janine, so much. You kind of create work and you hope it resonates in a certain way. And I don't think I've ever described my work to you, and you just described it to me like only I could hope someone would feel about it. So thank you. Yeah, so I've been a surface pattern designer since 2012, and my first love was fabric, and I set out to be a fabric designer really with no know-how, no knowledge, no existing art practice, and no education about it at all. And back then, in 2009, 2010, there were really no classes or courses or education about it. And so I considered going back to school, because I had been to business school, not art school. And kind of in the throes of making that decision, decided to try to learn it on my own. And so I did. It was a bit of a journey. It took me about 2 years, and I just consistently approached learning this really large industry. I didn't really know what I even needed to learn at the beginning. And so I spent a couple of years really learning the program, learning the industry, understanding how to create, how to work in collections and a portfolio. And then I was licensed in 2012 as a fabric designer, and have been licensing for fabric and many other products ever since. And so it has just been an incredible world, an opportunity that was opened to me. I think probably everyone here knows what surface pattern design is, but I think we all probably have like a moment in time where we learned what it was, and our minds just expanded with what it could look like to do something so lovely for a job. And it's so flexible, so you get to use your creativity and your skills, but you can do it from anywhere in the world, and whenever you want to work, and things like that. So it has just been an incredible career to me, and something that I love doing is working to license my work to this day.
Mhm.
Now, education was never really part of the plan. My number one goal was fabric design, but kind of coming through this process, it felt very much like there wasn't anybody to look towards to help. And there wasn't, I was really looking for someone to kind of reach through the fog and grab my hand and pull me, it would say like this way. And it just felt like a very kind of closed industry, or at least there wasn't many opportunities to learn at the time. And so I kind of came out the other side feeling like if there was any way that I could turn around and help someone kind of reduce that overwhelm and understand what it looks like, what order to do things in, what you need to do in order to get to a certain place, that I would. And so that's what I set out to do. And this kind of career has unfolded where really I get to watch people start doing something that they love for their life. And it's been just the greatest honor.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And I think it's one of the reasons that your class has been so successful is because for someone who is brand new to surface pattern design and you see like a pattern like on a scarf or on the fabric or something, to try and understand like how does that go from an artist all the way to printed fabric in a quilt shop. Like it is
Yeah.
such a long journey, and it is like you said, there's no specific path that you could take that'll get you exactly where you want to go. So I think that's partly why people have really connected with your immersion program and you as a teacher through Skillshare and other places where you're teaching, is because it's really hard to know any of this stuff
Yeah.
you're on your own trying to figure it out. So if you
Yeah.
have a guide who can give you some of the skills and point you in the right direction and give you those insider tips, I think that's really invaluable. For me, when I was designing my fabrics, which was what was the first one? I'm forgetting which issue it was. It's been so long. I've done 4 collections. On the first one, it was just, I had a whole bunch of patterns that I created in Illustrator for the spines of my magazine.
Yeah.
And it wasn't like, I thought, oh, someday this might be nice on fabric, but I wasn't designing for fabric. I was designing for print. So when the fabric opportunity came about many years after I had designed some of those initial things, it was very interesting for me to try and figure out, well, what does it mean to make a pattern for fabric? How is that different from what I was doing for print magazine? What do I need to do with my files to make them into repeats? And like, what do I need to know about color management when it comes to fabric versus print? Like, I didn't know where to look, and I should have taken your course, but I was just like figuring it out as I went along. And so as I've done other collections, I've learned by doing, but that's the hard way. And I really should have just done a course and saved myself so much trial and error. But anyway, that's me. So I have not taken your class personally. I wish I had when I was starting out, because I think it would have alleviated a lot of pain points for me.
You haven't taken my course and you don't need to at this point in your career, but you do have many of my students in your circle, right? So I would love to hear from you. You've talked a little bit about your submissions from the surface pattern design issue, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the kind of the quality of work that comes out from students is incredible. Like we've been able to see hundreds, thousands of students come out with a skill set that's irreplaceable and opens so many doors in so many different avenues. And I know you've had a lot of them in the issue, which is fun.
Yeah, I'm really grateful for that. Yeah, so the last time I did the surface pattern design guide, which happens every 2 years, there were, I think it was over 800 people submitted, and then they submitted between 6 and 8 designs per person. So there was a lot to look at. But yeah, you can really tell when someone has the basics figured out.
Yeah.
It really does show in the resulting pattern that they have the technical aspect figured out and that they have a feeling of what it is that they're trying to present and share as an individual artist. I think it's easy to look at someone else's work and emulate what they're doing and then keep emulating and forget that you need to inject your own personality and perspective in there. And so I think a good thing about being educated and taking a course that has some of the technical stuff about learning Illustrator, for example, but also about finding your artistic voice is for me, when I'm looking at hundreds of submissions, often what is really standing out to me beyond the technical ability is the personality of the artist.
Yeah.
So, they're putting their heart and soul in their work. And so either they have a unique way of expressing themselves through mark making, or maybe they have a color story that is really interesting. They might have themes and motifs that are really kind of out there and fun, right? Instead of just showing what everyone else is doing, like that catches my eye. Anyway, it's a real pleasure to put that issue together every couple of years. And so the next one will be out in spring of next year. However, that means that I'm going to be doing the open call for submissions at the end of this year.
Yeah.
So if people are like wanting to be in that, get a head start and start coming up with your designs, because I'll be asking to see them like October, November of this year. So, yeah.
Oh man, do I devour that issue. I get somewhere cozy with nothing else to do. I have something cozy to drink, and I just devour that issue.
Yeah, it's my favorite. And that's why I do it every couple of years. That's the only thing that I do repeated in the magazine, is that format. It's just so joyful, and it really, it actually, if I'm not going to brag, but it actually helps people's careers, because they've gotten jobs out of it because the people use it as a directory.
Yeah.
Okay, so we got some questions lined up now. So, well, I'll just start at the top. Sumera asked, you teach repeatable connecting patterns in Immersion?
Yeah, so let me give you an overview of the course.
Sure.
This is the 5th year for teaching the Immersion course, and it's 3rd edition. So everything is brand new this year, freshly recorded, which is quite an undertaking, like five plus months of work. And so we're really thrilled with the course. Can't wait for students to dive in. So I teach it once a year. So we opened enrollment yesterday and have been welcoming students. The enrollment is open until February 22nd, and then we start on February 28th. So it's an 8-week course, and there are 6 modules that we deliver. We very much do it together. So there's a lot of live aspects to it. So you have a module delivered to you, and then I'm there for 3 Q&As every week. We've got a couple of implementation weeks. We have an immense support team and expert team there to support students as well. And so module 1 is Intro to Illustrator. And so Adobe Illustrator is what we use in my corner of the internet. And so I teach this program truly from the ground up, meaning about half of the students who come into the course are brand new. Half of them, well, about another 25% of them have some experience, and about another 25% of them have immense experience, meaning they've been working in the program every day for a decade or more. And we really, everyone kind of works on something different based on their starting knowledge of Adobe. Module 2 is Illustrator Advanced. And so even my most advanced illustrators are diving in and learning so much about the workflow for surface design and tips and tricks, and really refining that. Module 3 is Repeating Patterns Pro. So once you really learn how to create artwork and get your artwork into Illustrator, we work on repeating patterns of every kind. We learn what makes a good repeat, how to really build in and make them more dynamic. Module 4 is collection creation. So once you learn how to build patterns, how do you put them into collections that are cohesive, balanced on a theme or a story? And there's quite a lot to that collection creation process. Module 5 is once you have a collection and then a portfolio, how to license your work. So how to reach out to companies, how to get your work actually out into the world, how to partner, what do contracts look like, the legal side of it all. And then module 6 is, I think, something that really helps students immensely. And this course also stand out, and it's on creative entrepreneurship. And so it's really the business side of becoming a successful business person. So not only how to license, but how to build a brand and what that looks like, and how to keep accounting and all of the things that go into actually being a successful business person. So those are the 6 modules delivered over 8 weeks. And then we also offer a full 12 weeks of full support. And when I say full support, I expand my support team. During this time every year, there are 26 of us supporting students this year. So it's immense. And we know how to get people unstuck and consistently working through and making progress. And so what students are able to do, not only throughout the course, but in the leading months, is truly incredible.
So for someone who is starting out, like blank slate, they want to pursue this, and they're going to go through the 8 weeks, what can they reasonably expect to have at the end of it? So it sounds like they'll have some of the basics, and then the advanced knowledge about Illustrator. Obviously, practice and repeated working in that will improve your skills. Going through the business, will they have a collection, or what you're doing is you're guiding them with how to get started, and then they'll need the time to create that collection?
Well, it does depend on the time, right? And so we have people who go through it in real time, meaning they're dedicating a couple hours every day to the course. And then we have so many people who have things that significantly squish their time. You know, we have stay-at-home parents, or single parents, or people with full-time jobs, or people taking care of parents, that all, you know, do it in the nooks and the crannies, and they'll take 6 months, 3 months, 12 months to do the course. So it depends on how much time you want to dedicate to it. But every year we have multiple people licensed before the course is even over. And then we also have people who, you know, decide on their kind of own timeline, and they're going to work through it at this pace, and then they come out ready to go when they're ready. So we really emphasize not rushing, but truly doing the work, and knowing that when you're ready, the world will be ready for you, you know. So we talk about the transformation, right? So it is called immersion because it's truly immersive. You will, if you do the course, come out with everything you need to create an entire career, if that's what you want. Of course, we know that many people are also wanting to do like a side hustle, or a part-time thing, or they're just kind of curious and creative, right? But many people turn this into their full-time careers. They quit their day jobs eventually. They start manufacturing companies, so many different things. And so one thing we haven't talked about yet is stories. We have a new page this year. It's called the Celebrate page, and you can get to it from the Immersion page. It's an invitation to read student stories. But the cool thing that we've done this year is that we have over 300 alumni kind of sharing their experience on that page, and it's searchable by attribute. So you can see, if you want to see if anybody in your country has taken it and what their success has been, or if they're making over $50,000 or 6 figures or 7 figures, or what industry they work in and how they've been able to apply their skill sets. So I would definitely say grab something, a warm cup of tea, and go dive into the Celebrate page, because if nothing else, it will truly just lift you up.
Yeah. And I have some testimonials from UPPERCASE people on my Bonnie Christine page on my website too. There's a lot of crossover between the people who read the magazine and go through your course, which I'm very grateful for. But those stories are really good to know, because I think, and having so many different stories from like 300 people, the point is, and I think this is you're saying, is you belong here, or something. You belong here, because there's so many different ways that you can express your creativity. And just because you see that there's hundreds of other people who are also students in this course, that doesn't mean that there isn't room for you to express yourself, and for you to find your niche, and for you to find your path forward. As a designer, there's always room for more talent.
Yeah, you know,
important to know.
We always say it's all been done before, but it hasn't been done by you. And, you know, at the end of the day, this career is creating artwork for products. It's creating artwork for products. And there is an endless amount of need for that. It's worldwide, it spans every industry all across the globe. And so, you know, we have students who kind of carve out their own. So they come, you know, they launch their own products. And then we have people who do print on demand for immense success. We have people who partner with companies who do licensing. We have people who are really dedicated to sustainability. And so they decide to only partner with the brands that are sustainable to do an entire career out of that. And then we always have these incredible unique uses, which might be my favorite because, you know, typically people come out and license, but so many people have done really unique things. We have block printers, we have ceramicists who use the skills to kind of design their ceramics. We had, thinking about Kirsty Mason, she developed her own cloth diaper company after taking the course. And so there's so many different avenues and little niches that you can carve out for yourself. It's really incredible.
Lindsay asks, you mentioned being able to work from anywhere in the world. Is it possible and common to work with companies in countries other than your own?
Absolutely. So when we first started, you know, my husband and I were newlywed, like going back to 2009, and we had nothing. We had no house, we had no money, we had one car, but we had some big dreams, and we got really clear on some goals that we had. And we knew it would take time and a lot of intention to meet those goals. But our goals were to have location freedom. So we wanted to be able to work from anywhere in the world. For us, this meant that we wanted to work in this tiny town that we live in North Carolina, because our parents, both of sets of our parents live here, and we love it. It's beautiful, but it's small. There's not a lot of like opportunity here. So we wanted to be able to move around. For some people, that means, I'm thinking about Erin Kendall, took the course, made over 6 figures in her first year, as she took her family around Australia in a caravan, right? So we're talking really working from anywhere, and that spans countries quite frequently. We also wanted time freedom, meaning we get to set our own hours. So it doesn't mean that we don't work a lot. We may still work 40, 50 hours a week, but we get to decide when it is. You know, which is really important because now we have small children, and I wanted to be able to have so much flexibility around having a family. And then we wanted financial freedom, which was very far from what we had at the time, but we have built that in very intentionally. And the way that we've done that is to choose things that are not trading time for money. So instead of trading time for money, we work with things that are based on percentages. And so that's recurring revenue or residual revenue. And so licensing is one of the best things for that, because you do the work once and then you get paid for it over and over and over again for many, many years. I'm still getting royalties from stuff that I designed 10 years ago, and it just kind of like compiles. And so it takes intention, and it takes setting those goals and knowing how to kind of meet them every day, but it's absolutely possible and really rewarding. Like you, Janine, are home today, and so many people don't have that as an option.
Yeah, and that's the best thing about being a creative entrepreneur, is that it's freedom, but it's not, because you are very committed to your entity, like to uppercase.
Right.
I am. It's just like I'm uppercase. Uppercase is me. Like it's hard to separate. Right. So that is a bit of a drawback sometimes. But the best thing is, like, I can control the intensity in which I am dedicating myself to it. So sometimes it's full on, and sometimes I can, lean back a little and do homeschooling with my son instead. We can stay home instead of going to the office. Like there's those decisions like throughout the day. And especially during pandemic times, to have the opportunity to just, okay, fine, we're just going to hunker down at home for 2 years. It's right. Like, that is, for me, the reward of being a self-employed entrepreneur, is that being able to make those decisions and react to the times and still be able to create something that is profitable under dire circumstances. Like that is
Yeah.
a success. And that's what I think is most appealing about a creative career and this sort of idea of location freedom and time freedom.
Yeah, I think it's important to define what success means to you as a different as everyone. For me, success means freedom, and that's what this is. This is just like you're saying, freedom to make those choices, but also doing something that I love is successful to me. Like loving it so much that it doesn't feel like a job. And you're right, it's hard to, like, you will love it so much that it's a bit blurry, like it becomes who we are. Yeah.
Yeah. So Sumera has some more questions. She's a very eager student here. She wants to know, how many hours per week do you think you need to commit for that 8-week time frame? And she also wants to know, do you cover marketing and pitching in the course?
Yes, absolutely, we do. So if you head on over to the Immersion information page, you'll see all of the modules, and specifically there is an expanded version. You can kind of drop down these parts of the page that will give you a really in-depth overview of everything that we cover in each module. And so we absolutely do cover marketing, pitching, all those things. So the first question was
how many hours per
Okay,
day?
yeah.
While you're immersed in the course, what is like a basic level of commitment people need to?
Yeah, so we kind of offer a couple of alternative timeframes. So some people will come in and they'll want to keep pace with the course. If you want to keep pace with the course, we suggest somewhere between 1 and 3 hours a day. And again, that's highly variable because it's dependent on how quick you are learning Illustrator, if you've had any experience before. And also, you know, are you making like a mini collection to practice, or are you really making like a 10 print collection that you want to put in a portfolio? And that's all up to you and dependent on your ability when you come in. So if you're learning everything for the first time, I would suggest that you practice and then you kind of come back and interweave your own voice as you go. So if you want to keep pace, we typically see students take 1 to 3 hours. We have many students who will go at a slower pace. And so we talk about this quite a lot. We want you to decide on your timeline and be confident in the timeline, because no one is on like alone. There are many people doing it on a slower timeline. So the thing that I really speak about a lot is consistency. And so we want to see students consistently approaching the course, even if that's 10 minutes a day. I'm not worried. It may take you 6 months. If you do 10 minutes a day, I'm not worried one bit. I get worried when people completely step away from it. They'll fall off for 2 or 3 weeks. They forget their login. They don't have their stuff out, you know, and then it starts to do this. And so we ask that it just becomes a habit. So we talk about creating habits. You know, you wouldn't skip brushing your teeth for 5 days. So you're not going to come and skip the course. You're just going to take 10 minutes at minimum and do something that day. So we talk about doing one thing every day, because truly it just builds and builds and builds. And it may feel like not a lot, but in hardly any time at all, you will look back and see so much progress being made.
Yeah, and that time commitment and the mental commitment, emotional commitment to taking immersion and dedicating yourself to surface pattern design, you can continue that when you've completed the course. Like that attention is
Right.
what's going to maintain your success towards being a surface pattern designer with collections, because it does require consistency with it. You have to just keep putting in the time. That's how you improve, and that's how you build, is putting it in. And it might be difficult at first because you have to, like, you know, exercise those muscles, but once you've got it, you just keep going in there. And I think that's the magic part, is when you commit to something fully, you give it a little bit of time every day, and the snowball gets bigger and bigger and bigger, and you end up with something really great at the end.
Yeah.
Related to the time commitment, I see in the chat, Kate Swan had asked, about study groups as an
Yeah.
option. And she was wondering about, I guess, the time committed to live calls versus doing things on her own pace. But I do know you can sign up specifically to be part of a cohort or something, right?
Study group.
Study
Yes.
group.
Yeah, so study groups are, okay, so let me back up. The way that the course is structured is that you get a module delivered to you all at once every week for 6 weeks. We've got 2 implementation weeks put in there to allow you to really soak in what you've learned and implement on the instruction that we give you. And so you get the module. They drop on Mondays at 11 a.m. And then we have 3 live Q&A sessions every week. So Monday, Wednesday, Friday, we do a live Q&A for students. Now, in addition to that, many people join a study group. So study groups are optional and they're kind of an add-on to the experience. And so on the back end, we know, well, if you get the community, right, as just a student, but this study group is a group that we put together for you of 5 to 6 people that are in a similar stage as you, who are going through the course, who live in a similar place. So same time zone, same country. And we have kind of all these attributes that we match up. And so this is really where a lot of the magic happens, is because you get to come alongside a smaller group, support each other, get to know each other and connect. So it's considered a guided experience. So we do a training for those study groups for the leaders. And then we also have this packet that gets delivered at the beginning of each module to them that has talking points, structure for their meetings. So we ask that study groups meet for 8 weeks, once a week for 8 weeks at minimum. But we've been doing this long enough to know that many groups will meet endlessly. They will decide to meet for years to come. And, best friends have been formed. I can't tell you how many times I've heard that happen. So we are really honored to offer the groups and see so much progress being made.
And illustrative collectives too, I believe. I think some people,
yeah.
That they met through Immersion and then they basically started their own collective of surface pattern designers. I forget their name, but
we had a group,
really cool.
We had a group come through and do their own magazine together. It was like a completely collaborative thing. So it's really cool to see what happens in those smaller groups.
Yeah. I think the community aspect is a really great feature about Immersion. And I think it also reinforces the fact that we're not in competition with each other. We're supporting each other. Everyone has their own story, their own unique style, and there's room for everybody. So having that community aspect when you're learning surface pattern designer, I think is great. Because I think people who, you're just surfing Instagram or whatever, and you have that, the feelings of, you're trying to compare yourself to what you see on social media, or you feel like overwhelmed by just the volume of what you see out there. I think having a community is a really grounding way of dealing with some of those contemporary some negative things that we can experience in our day-to-day life, which, the social media comparison trap and feeling overwhelmed by too many different inputs of information. And there's a lot going on in the world right now. So I think having a dedicated community that's very specific about a thing that you love, which is surface pattern design, that is really, I think that's just a great place to be right now.
The community has become this whole thing on its own. And, I look back and I'm like, how did this happen? And, I never really, it's kind of like in hindsight that I see, we set really high standards for the community. We have, people like us do this, and we really talk very much about how it's community over competition, and we are better together. And, I've built my entire business on sharing my secrets. And so that's kind of the value that we hold in the community too. And so to see people, it's like that reciprocity, right? They've gotten so much that they want to give so much. And so people just come along everyone else and uplifts them, gives them support, gives them resources, helps them, gives them feedback. And, you know, when we're in an industry that not many people understand, like not many people understand what it is, what we're doing, they can't necessarily give you in our real lives, right? Like, you know, I can't ask my real like life friends about a licensing contract because they've never read one before, you know. So to have a community that can just come together and knows how to support you and normalizes the success of creatives, normalizes having big dreams and going after them, it's super transformative. Yeah.
Yep. So let's see, there's a couple more questions. Vicky asks, while researching surface pattern designers, I see a lot of floral, plant, and cutesy nature motifs. Is that what's in demand? I like those kinds of designs, but tend to prefer more geometric and flowing abstract designs.
This is a great question. So there are two ways to think about designing. There's one way that kind of works towards the market and trends. And then there's another way, which is the way that I do and I teach, and it is to create truly what you want to see come alive in the world. And so I encourage students to really kind of put their blinders on and what is it that you want to create? And don't look at what else is out there. And once you do that, your style will emerge, your voice will emerge, your uniqueness will show. And so I've built my licensing career on designing truly from my heart, like really, what do I want to see? What do I want to design? And then I kind of see if anybody's interested in it. And it's always worked. And I think that it allows us to infuse story and meaning and message in our work in a unique way. And I think that what happens is that it can oftentimes help the viewer connect more deeply with it, not only with your work, but with you as an artist. Now, the flip side to that is some people that's too much freedom, right? Like they want parameters. They want to say, have a Christmas collection, have a floral collection, and, you know, they'll find success with it too. And so it's okay if you prefer to work to a brief. In fact, many students, they don't want to build a brand. They don't want their name, you know, on the selvage, for instance, but they have this unique skill set. And so they will work for companies like in-house designers and things like that. So many, many different avenues, but I would always say you don't have to do anything. You have to do what speaks to you most.
Yeah. If you just look at, I'm just looking at our Zoom windows, like your patterns and then my patterns and mine, like I'm coming from a graphic design background and typography. So my patterns are all, actually, they're very simple, geometric, they're typographic. My most recent collection, I am someone who needs a creative brief. I need some parameters, otherwise I don't know what to do. So I created the parameters for myself that I wanted to I wanted to design fabric that had something to say. So both thematically, that it had a point of view, and also that it had typography and text in it. And it also had to be socially conscious, and that I wanted it to reflect my so-called my background as a graphic designer. I wanted to approach fabric as a graphic designer. So those are the parameters I gave myself. It's not like Wyndham Fabrics gave me that. They just wanted to see another collection. So I had to come up with a brief for myself. So that's what I decided to do. And then the result was a collection that has there's little protest signs that talk about kindness and being nice to one another and saving the environment. And there are other ones that I call the Creative Manifesto, with just lots of text talking about living a creative life. And then some are just graphic interpretations based on the signs and things that I made. So that's how I dealt with my fabric challenge for creating number 4. So I think that's a different approach altogether than what some people do, where they're coming from like an emotional and personal kind of a release, that they have something in them that they want to say. For me, I'm always more cerebral and designy. That's how I just operate, right? But other people come from it in a different way, and it's much more intuitive and emotional and sensitive, and that is amazing too. Like when I see work like that, that's what I'm drawn to, because it's sort of like the opposite of what I can create. So anyway, I think that's just my point being that you can do all sorts of amazing things with surface pattern design, and you can have your personality, or you can put on the personality of somebody else, or if you're working for a company, you can design for them. It's so open to what you can do.
Yeah. Yeah, truly. No wrong approach.
No. Okay, so there was a couple questions related to finances. So Yvette was asking if there's a discount code, and then also in the chat, I see someone was saying how her budget is limited, and she was wondering if she could just take different modules separately through the year a la carte.
Yeah.
So
I'm happy to talk about that. So we don't offer modules a la carte, and part of that is because they truly build on each other. And we can't have someone coming into module 3 without setting the foundation that truly builds on it. I would say perhaps that's one of the secret sauces to the course, is that it is truly like one thing after another, that you have to have the full experience. It is also very much an experience. We call it the immersion experience, because it's not a course. It's not the stuff. It is stuff. There are 6 modules with over 150 lessons, but it is so much more than that. It's the community, the lives, the support. You get something in the mail from us. You get a finishers, like we play games. I have these golden tickets that are going out to 3 lucky people that enroll. It's truly an entire experience. So there are 3 payment plans, but there's also, let me kind of talk about that. So there's a one-time payment that is the best value. And then we also do a 3 and 6 month payment plan on the Immersion page. You can read all about that and the breakdown of it at the bottom. But one thing that oftentimes people don't realize is that if you during checkout, you can choose to pay via PayPal. And if you choose that, PayPal gives you an option to do PayPal credit. So PayPal credit gives you 6 months at 0% interest, which is my 6-month payment plan has interest built into it, meaning if you use that PayPal credit, it allows students to get the best value, so the one-time payment plan, and then have 6 months to pay it off at 0% interest through PayPal. So we have a lot of people who utilize that, and it really helps meet them where they're at. So those are the options.
Mm-hmm. Are there any scholarships?
We do have scholarships. They come out in January of every year. So you can see that the winners this year, the recipients this year, if you go to surfacepatterdesigners.com/scholarship, we awarded eight recipients. So we had over 1,400 applications this year. We gave away 8 full scholarships. And so those open in January every year and are announced in early February of every year.
Right. And if it's just not in the cards for someone to take it this year, you can still access all of Bonnie's free workshop that she broadcast last week and early this week. And there's plenty of great information in there, plus her live Q&As, to get you started.
There's so much.
Yeah, so much great content.
The workshop is up until February 22nd. So you still have nearly a week, but you definitely want to watch it while you can.
Yeah. And Carrie asks, I see that many have taken the course more than once. Why would that be necessary? And does access expire?
Great question. So actually the names behind me are, we pin up everyone's name who enrolls in the course on the wall. And this is really symbolic to me. They're on wildflower seed paper, Janine. So I'm going to be planting them this spring, which is so symbolic. Beautiful. I can't even stand it. But actually all the ones up on the board are alumni who have come back this year. So let me talk about that. as a student, you get lifetime access to your version of the course. So say you enroll this year, you have the 2022 course forever. But we invite alumni to come back for the new experience for 75% off. So you'll always be invited to come back and retake the experience at 75% off. So we have about 25% of alumni who come back. And I think that this is honestly just the biggest compliment to the course and the experience and the community possible. I have had people who have done it for, this will be their 5th year. And I think that it is such a testament to the energy, the support, the quality of getting your questions answered and being unstuck and really uplifting your whole experience. And so I also have courses like that I take every single year, whether they've been updated or not, because, you know, I'm different. Like, even if the course is the same, which mine just so happens to be completely new this year, but I've taken this one course every year. And even in the years that it's not updated, I'm different. And the information falls on me differently, and I'm in a different place. And so I can utilize and implement things completely differently. So yeah, that's what happens with alumni. We have a really strong alumni presence and big love of alumni.
Yeah. And to be clear, the alumni aren't paying full price again. They have an alumni.
They have 75% off.
Yeah. So that's good for someone to know. Yeah. And like you mentioned, you've re-filmed everything for this year. So that's another bonus for people who are coming back and they're alumni, and they're getting the new course at 75% off to experience the all new Bonnie from your new video production, which looked amazing when I saw all the previews on Instagram.
It was an undertaking.
Yeah. I think you mentioned this before with the golden ticket, but Kim was asking if she's remembering correctly, but in previous years, there's a package mailed to participants. Is that something that's offered this year?
Yes. So all students get a student packet, and we slip 3 golden tickets into packets as they go out the door. And the golden ticket recipients get a bunch of stuff. They get Immersion Live attendance. They get a Bonnie Christine Explosion packet. They get special treatment and things like that.
Your packages are always lovely. I have this one.
Yes.
From Immersion Live. Oh yes, from year before last.
We have a lot of fun with them.
Yeah, and it's so beautifully presented. Okay, there's 2 questions left in the Q&A. If you have a question, drop it in now, because we've only got about 5-10 minutes left. We didn't really talk about the tech aspect. So obviously Adobe Illustrator is the main program that you are the expert on. But Leslie Gianna is asking, what about Procreate? Let's say she uses Procreate. Can she take Procreate drawings and use that in Illustrator and use that as a workflow?
Yeah, so what you have to have for this course is a computer with Illustrator on it and something to draw with. So paper, pencil, pen, paintbrush, whatever. And then either a camera or a scanner. Now, many people aid their drawing with a tablet of some kind. So we have a lot of students who use a Wacom tablet to help in their drawing. We also have many students who have the iPad that help with their drawing as well. So neither of those are essential, though, to finding success in this course. We do have a bonus module on how to use Illustrator and Procreate for the iPad, specifically for finishing work in Illustrator. But in this course, even though we use something like Procreate as a middle step, we always finish our work directly within Illustrator. Yeah, I think that's all.
What about people who like to use Photoshop? There's probably lots of ways where you can get Photoshop stuff into Illustrator, because it's all Adobe.
Yeah, Photoshop is not our specialty, so we don't really offer support for Photoshop. We definitely have students who use, love, and know Photoshop, but you will absolutely want to use Illustrator during the course. Now, if you know both, if you learn Illustrator and you learn Photoshop, I think that, you know, you are a true powerhouse. Like there's just no project that you can't do. And so if you're a Photoshop pro, but you know just enough to be dangerous in Illustrator, I challenge you to come learn Illustrator and understand which one is better for which applications, and be able to work with any company or any brand that comes your way.
Yeah, and I think if I recall from last year, there were some people that they're naturally painters.
Yeah.
So they were a little, maybe slightly afraid about, well, how do I get my painting, my watercolor, my acrylic into Illustrator, right? But
Yeah.
there are so many ways that you can
So many.
translate that in. So if you want to translate it in and have it look super exact, or if you want to like
Yeah.
see how the process of bringing it into Illustrator can
So I paint
give you
quite
new
a lot.
ways of manipulating. It's pretty exciting. And I think I can't remember her name right now, but she was in the Surface Pattern Design Guide. She had some major breakthroughs by taking something that was just, she was used to painting and like creating this way, kind of really free form. Then she put it into Illustrator and kind of broke through the color separations, and then started manipulating those color separations in a really interesting way, so that
Yeah.
the brush strokes themselves started like layering. Anyway, it was really cool, and she would not have figured that out if she was trying to reproduce that painting directly. So I think
So
there's lots of fun that you can have in that
there is.
translation.
And I paint quite a lot for my work. Sometimes I paint and maintain shading like with watercolor, but sometimes I paint like specifically to just get the textured brush strokes and things, knowing that I don't want to maintain. So this would have been like a very opaque paint. Something like this is like watercolor so that I can maintain the shading. But I think the magic of Illustrator is being able to maintain complete control over how many colors you're using and how to recolor your artwork. And so typically the surface pattern designs that I see made in Photoshop, it's often really hard or sometimes impossible to recolor the actual elements. You know, you'll recolor the background, but not the actual elements. And so there's some tricks that I've developed in Illustrator where you can maintain the number of colors, which is important for a lot of manufacturers. Like I've been limited to 18 colors. I've been limited to as little as 4 or even 2 for different products. And so I can take a multicolor document and know how to work it down to a minimum number of colors if I need to. And then also recoloring. So recoloring your artwork truly with maintaining all of that shading is a skill that is so important in the industry, and you'll learn exactly how to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
All right, well, it's 11:55 and we have this amazing comment here by an anonymous attendee, and I swear I did not plant this question. She says, you are both wonderfully successful. What do you see for yourselves in your work's next chapter? So what a great question to end on.
Great question. You go first.
Okay. Well, for me, I would like to actually get into what Bonnie is doing, and that's education. So I've been working on writing a course about creative business, and one that is kind of going through the very basic building blocks of things that you need to be able to do to have a business. So even like going down to managing your inbox and how to communicate and how to write a pitch and contact someone about something very specifically. Like I'm just going right down to those little details that I think trip people up sometime. So that's where my new chapter will be. And I've done a lot of work on it. I've been thinking about it for pretty much 8 years. But because I'm also homeschooling my son now, his education is more important than everybody else's. So that's my priority. So in between, I'm writing it. I don't know when it'll come out, but that's definitely what the next chapter will be, is something that's brand new from me in Uppercase.
Wow. Oh my goodness. I'm so excited about that. Okay. Short term, long term. Short term is this year is the year of the podcast. I don't have a release date, but it's coming. I feel pregnant with it. It's coming. I don't have my due date yet though. Long term is that I don't know, but I'll tell you the direction that we're moving in. And when I say we, I have a team of 6 now, and we will oftentimes come to what we call heartstorming sessions, where we just really heartstorm the future. And we're obsessed, literally obsessed with student results. And so we're always asking ourselves the question of how do we get results better? And how do we kind of close the loop for so many students? And so, right now we're kind of on this side of the loop, teaching you everything you need to know. Like, is there a way that we could help close the loop and help get students' work into the right hands, into the right companies? Can we help them make more income? Just kind of lots of questions that we roll around on how can we better help students succeed and close those loops rather than send them off, with everything they need in their tool belt, but how could we actually be the solution as well? So that's kind of the question that we mull about, and we say no idea is too big. So we talk about, what if we created Adobe Illustrator or Adobe Photoshop? Like, think really big, like what hole in the industry could we possibly fill? What is a need that's not currently being met? And like, no idea is too big. So it's fun.
That there's no idea too big is so exciting when you let yourself go there.
Yeah.
Well, this has been lovely as always, Bonnie. And I think we've reached the end of our questions. So thank you for our discussion. So that's lovely. Thank you, Ellen, and thank you to everyone who has asked questions and shown up and participated in the chat. We appreciate your time and your attention. And I'll send out an email later in the day once this video is done. I'll post it up on my website so everyone can see it again if you want. And I've put in my link there for Immersion if people are ready to just sign up, but they have until when's the date they need to decide?
Tuesday, February 22nd.
Okay.
Yes.
So some time to mull it over and to go look at the success page that Bonnie was talking about and read about how other people have really gone to new heights by taking Immersion.
Yeah. Thank you for joining us. It was so nice to get to chat with all of you.
All right. Thank you so much for your time, Bonnie. And I'll see you soon, I hope.
Bye. See you
Bye.
soon. Bye.
Take care, everybody.